Did you notice all the details, references, and Easter eggs in Elemental? The new Disney and Pixar movie that tells the love story between two beings of different elements, water and fire, brought many cool details. For example, the car brand called Toyota, which is a clear reference to Toyota, one of the world's largest vehicle manufacturers. Since there's tree written there, it's a beautiful pun. That's just one of the references, details, and Easter eggs we've gathered for you today. We're going to share with you some details about the movie Elemental, so there's a 100% chance you'll hear a spoiler if you haven't watched it yet. We just wanted to give you a heads up, okay? More wordplay. In addition to the wordplay with the car brand, there are some other clever puns that the animators included in the film, especially among the products sold in Bernie's store, Ember's father. For example, the toothpaste there is called Colgate, instead of Colgate that everyone knows. Quite appropriate for the fire elements to brush their teeth, don't you think? Some other brands also had their names adapted in the movie, like Juicy Fruit becoming Juicy Flame. Furthermore, other candies had their names adapted, like Twix turning into Twig, A113. Pixar is the studio that created the movie Elemental and is now owned by Disney. But even before the company was bought by the House of Mickey Mouse, its producers always made a point of including a reference to the classroom at the Art Institute where many of them studied, A113. However, in Elemental, this reference was much more subtle and, let's say, of a high level of intelligence. We can see the term A113 well hidden in this information sign on the train line in Element City. We see the three symbols, A, H, and Al. H is the symbol for hydrogen in the periodic table, which has an atomic number of 1, and Al is the symbol for aluminum, which has an atomic number of 13. Therefore, the sign is encoded as A113. This one was really difficult to encode, but it was certainly brilliant. Congratulations, Pixar! Subway. Since we're talking about the periodic table, you may have noticed that all the subway lines in Element City are depicted in a manner resembling the periodic table. It makes perfect sense, considering that the film's director, Peter Sohn, mentioned that the concept of the movie originated from his interest in the periodic table when he was a high school student. Newspaper. In fact, not only the subway utilizes the periodic table as a reference, but also the newspaper in Element City. When we see an air person entering the subway car, if we look to the right, we can spot an advertisement for a certain type of newspaper. Its name? Periodical. Another reference to the periodic table that director Peter Sohn is so fond of. Elio. Pixar always includes references to their upcoming films in their movies. For example, in Buzz Lightyear, there's a reference to Elemental when we see a watermark on the vending machine with the name Wade. It's kind of a spoiler, if you will, for the next film. And recently, a teaser for Pixar's next film, Elio, was released. It tells the story of a little boy who gets transported to another planet. We can see a reference to Elio in a flashback scene where young Goda is simply absorbed by a sponge at school. If we pay attention to the background, we can spot some posters, like the one about the science fair, and next to it, one about the school's space club. This ties in with the theme of Elio, which is another space adventure promoted by Pixar. Denise Ream, the producer of Elemental, mentioned that some characters from Elio have also been included in the film, but they can only be discovered after the release of the next Pixar movie. Goda's butt. When Goda literally goes down the drain and ends up in Bernie's store, we see that he gains some muscle definition since he's made of water and becomes totally ripped. Those who were paying attention while watching the movie might have noticed that she quickly glances at the guy's butt. Thought we wouldn't notice, huh? Next time, try to hide it better. Romance film reference. One of the coolest parts of the movie is Wade and Ember's visit to the cinema. Although we don't get to see scenes from the actual movie they watch, the cinema entrance reveals the film's name is tied in Prejudice. Another clever wordplay in the film referencing the romantic drama film called Pride and Prejudice. I'm not sure if you've seen that film, but it's really great and has an interesting aspect. Despite being a romance movie, there's not a single kiss in it. It was still a bit early for Wade and Ember to be thinking about that. The Good Element. As Wade and Ember enter the cinema, we quickly catch a glimpse of a movie poster next to them. The name of the film is what catches our attention, The Good Element. And this is a reference to the Pixar film The Good Dinosaur, which was also directed by Peter Sohn and released in 2015. The detail is that this film was Peter Sohn's directorial debut, and he is also the director of Elemental. So, it's another reference tied to him. Elemental's planet. When Wade and Ember go to City Hall to speak with Fern, a government employee, we can notice that on his desk, along with a figurine of himself and scattered notes, there's a globe. And it's evident that this globe is completely different from the Earth globe as we know it. Firstly, it's predominantly green, indicating a lot of vegetation in the world of Elemental. However, in the middle of the ocean, there is a separate and red-colored continent, demonstrating that the fire people have always lived isolated from the other elements. This is exactly the same situation in Element City, where they reside in a separate neighborhood. When Ember puts the globe in Wade's mouth, it becomes more apparent and the fire continent becomes more visible. Firetown. The neighborhood where Ember and her family live is a clear reference to districts found around the world that are populated by people from other places, such as Chinatown, which can be found in cities across North America, Europe, and even Australia. In these neighborhoods, many Chinese immigrants and their families live, preserving a significant part of their culture and customs from their country of origin. This relates to Firetown, the neighborhood where most fire people live, as they also have different habits and customs compared to people from other elements. Immigrants. Another cool thing that stood out is how Asian culture is prominently featured in the film. This makes sense since Peter Sohn himself is of Asian descent, as his parents moved from South Korea to the United States. We can see the same thing with Bernie and Spark, Ember's parents, who left their homeland, the Land of Fire, 20 years ago to give their little daughter a better life opportunity. However, they still preserve many of their own characteristics. For instance, we see them speaking their own language, the language of fire. This reference is significant because Asian immigrants often seek to preserve some aspects of their native language when they migrate to other countries, passing it on to their descendants, which is really wonderful. Language. Since we're talking about the language of fire, here's a fascinating fact. Pixar enlisted the help of a language expert named David J. Peterson to create the fire language that Ember's parents used to communicate when they arrived in Element City. The interesting part is that David is highly experienced in this field, as he was responsible for creating languages for films like Dune, released in 2021, and another highly successful Hollywood production, Game of Thrones. He created the Dothraki and High Valyrian languages, among others. In other words, David is really skilled at this. Ghibli Studios. Wade's family is relatively large. Wade's brother has a girlfriend with a rather intriguing name, and that's where the important detail lies. Her name is Ghibli, a clear reference to Studio Ghibli, a Japanese company responsible for creating some masterpieces in the history of anime, such as Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, and Princess Mononoke. It's a wonderful homage to Japanese cinema. Cloudy clouds. It's interesting to note that some of the air people have lighter shades while others have darker shades, as if they were cloudy clouds. This has a direct connection to Pixar's animation called Partly Cloudy, where we see a gray cloud named Gus and a stork named Peck interacting to deliver babies around the world. The short film was released in 2009 and was created and directed by Peter Sohn, the director of Elemental. It's not yet clear if the change in tone among the air people in Elemental is related to their personality or age. However, what we can say is that Peter Sohn's short film certainly influenced the creation of the air people, and the fact that some of them have this cloudy appearance, similar to Gus from Partly Cloudy. Dug Up. Peter Sohn, the film's director, stated that the team made a great effort to include some Easter eggs from other movies, and one of them is Doug, the super cute dog from Up. However, we haven't been able to locate this Easter egg. Have you seen Doug in Elemental? Hey folks, those were the 15 details, references, and Easter eggs that we've highlighted for you in Elemental. Comment down below if you already knew about or had heard of these findings. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our upcoming videos. Until next time, bye-bye!